You watched AEW Dynamite last night, and as we are recording, usually you don't watch the night before. Usually you give it a few days, you get yourself in the zone, you let yourself get calm enough to begin.
I wait until the last minute when I can't avoid it, and then I do it.
Well, we did it early. They had a big episode this week. Big Business in Boston. And AEW Big Business was live last night. They began with, very similar to the debut of CM Punk, a big AEW debut. What did you think of AEW Big Business?
Well, they weren't doing real big business. You can't compare the two debuts. It wouldn't even be fair. If this had been good, it wouldn't be fair to poor Mercedes Moné to compare her debut to the original CM Punk debut in AEW, sold out United Center in Chicago, going out of their freaking fucking minds as a goddamn major star, returns to the wrestling business for the first time in, 7 years, and delivers one of the great promos of the modern television era. So to compare anything to that would not be favorable, obviously, and to compare this to that would be fucking comedic, because it was a surprise debut with a wink wink and a nod nod, and I know a lot of people will say Punk's was too, and it was with a wink wink and a nod nod, but they still did it with a little more intrigue, so the people knew, but they didn't actually come out and say it. But was she not tweeting from Boston? Were her friends Naomi and the Burrito Brothers, who else was it? Bailey tweeted, "We're in Boston." This came out before the show, did it not?
It did. I read about them being there to support her and her big night before the show. There's a motorcycle or something in the background, but I read about this beforehand, yes.
Well, then why would you do that when either advertise the fucking person or don't advertise the fucking person? Pick one and stick to it. So they had a surprise debut that people were talking about was going to happen before the show went on the air, but they didn't actually come out and say, okay, we're in Mercedes Moné's hometown, Boston. So come on, if you're going to do it like they did with Punk, where the people, yes, we know, we think we know, but the actual people involved didn't confirm it until you heard the music and saw his fucking name on the screen, and that's what got that goddamn ooh. But nevertheless, they were in the Boston Garden, scene of some of the greatest matches in the history, and oh boy, and for this, well, actually, it's the TD Garden. They tore the old one down, so they open the show. Renee Moxleygood is in the back, and a car pulls up. And it's a Mercedes, and the door opens, and then they go to the pyro and shit. So we know what's going on. And we don't have the ratings yet, folks, but I have a feeling they'll live to regret this. They put her on first. They play the music. CEO pops up on the screen. It's Mercedes Moné. And this is her hometown, and these are the people that came because they heard the rumor that she was going to be there as a surprise. So, yeah, she's over in this room like crazy. And she's got a heck of a costume on. Well, I don't know what her budget is, but her hair was spray painted AEW CEO on the back.
Well, I think it's a wig.
Well, it was awful. Goddamn, is she completely bald? How would she hide hair underneath that? It was pretty flat as it was.
They put wigs on people who aren't bald. You could have hair, you just kind of ball it up, I guess, or move it in a different way and put it in there to get some flashy, ridiculous hairdo.
This looked like she needed a little herbal essence to get some fluff out of the hair she had. I can't believe she's got a whole head of hair hid under that hair. I thought they painted her actual hair.
We will have to double check. Maybe I'm wrong, but if there's any
well, it took a while.
Sassoons
if they
out
did.
There, let us know. Yes.
Yes, if there's any buffoons out there. Is that what you said?
It's close enough.
Well, anyway, back to these buffoons. So they chant CEO. This is her. Sasha Banks had the dollar signs, right? So when she couldn't take that name, she's decided to become a CEO, and she's big business and dollar signs, things of that. That's her deal, right? Remember, we were lucky
guess.
enough not to be watching real closely when she was around the other company.
I saw a lot of her stuff, and despite the fact that she is really skinny and slight, she's really good. Although she got injured a bunch, but she's really good. The whole time here, and again, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid like everyone else. I'm curious about it, but there were people that are losing their minds. It's her hometown crowd chanting CEO. All I'm thinking is, what the hell is she the CEO of?
Well, that's the problem. I was saying that's how she's gotten to this point, the big business, the boss, big money, CEO, whatever. She's trying to do things confusingly similar to the trademarks that she does not possess. But now we got the board of directors in the WWE, and this angle's getting over. We got the guy on the board of directors. We've got the CCO, the Chief Content Officer, Triple H. But we've also, in this company, got the EVPs who are heels that have apparently gone rogue and will not be controlled by Tony Khan, who's the EV everything. He's the chief cook and bottle washer and booker and president and originator and founder, organizer, manipulator. But now she's the CEO. How does she fare with the EVPs? See, these are questions we got. So the point is, the fans chant welcome back or welcome home. And she does the promo. Her heart is beating out of her chest. She thanks the fans for having her back for 2 years and giving her courage and strength to make it through some dark time. Was she marooned on a fucking island?
She broke her ankle, right?
She basically wrote a speech here that was a high school commencement speech. If she was the valedictorian, she promised that they would create moments and magic together. She did a long promo about wrestling being her dream, and she dropped out of school to take care of her brother and has some personal background. And it's meandering, and then she said, if I can do it, you can too. That's the problem. Everybody now thinks they can do it. But the point, there was no, this was a recited speech complete with, I can't wait to call AEW home, page 3. She had memorized this heartfelt speech that I'm sure her heart means it, but she couldn't convey it verbally. I've never paid any attention, and I'm not sure I'm going to give a fuck going forward, but does she do good promos? Or is it that she's good in the ring and she shouldn't be given 10 minutes live on the air with a microphone? In which case, why did they debut her with they couldn't have done anywhere else but her hometown. They'd have been going to the fucking concession stand, would they not, with this delivery and content?
Well, again, time and place, and it worked in that time and place. She's a really good personality. The promos, I don't know about. Now, this is a unique situation. This isn't a promo for a feud or anything. It's more, like you said, a congratulations for getting all this money.
Yeah.
It's really what it comes down to. She's given this speech. They're losing their minds. Again, I didn't like it. It's not what I want. It was during this speech, it just hit me. I'm sick of hearing these wrestlers give speeches about their emotions.
Yes.
Not saying don't have them.
I don't give a fuck about anybody's emotions. Why would I give a fuck unless they're mad? And then I want to hear about it in detail.
Now, again, that's me. I will say that room was losing their mind. They were really into it. When you see what else was on this show, this may have been the only thing that really got... I mean, they drew a big house. They drew like over 9,000 people there, I think. So, for the first night in their hometown, this was a major success. I don't know how that will be going forward, especially if they're taking someone, even if she was, an all-time great, like a Gus Sonnenberg or a Rhea Ripley. Putting her in that division?
Okay, I
said a lot. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm willing to go with you for the time being that she's good in the ring and I'll see for myself, but she don't need long promos. It's all about, my feelings. And I'm saying, I thank you. No, thank you. No, it's like a fucking Chip and Dale goddamn cartoon with this bunch of soft ass fucking wrestlers thanking the soft ass fans. And the fans' chants had more inflection and feeling in them than this prepared award show thank you speech that it sounded like. That's what I thought. She's up there at the goddamn Golden Globes. And when she finally gets to, okay, why is she here? Now we're getting somewhere. She's here because I need to be here. AEW is the only place where this can go global. What? You just left the only place where this could go global.
That was a weird line for her to use here, wasn't it?
Yeah, because she was global. And now she's geographical. Or goddamn hemispherical. And then she said tonight, and this is when I realized they've lost their minds. She said tonight, Willow versus Riho is our main event. And I've got unfinished business with Willow. And that was all she said about that pretty much. But now, so the main event of this program is Willow Nightingale versus Riho, so that Tony thinks that people will stick around through this fiasco for 2 hours to see Sasha Banks do a run-in. And they're out of their minds. And I bet the ratings will show that. But nevertheless, she thanked Tony Khan and told the fans to say hello to their new CEO. And then she seductively took off her jacket to reveal herself in skimpy costuming and did a little stripper dance and danced backwards up the ramp out of the arena. And how many millions of dollars did this cost him?
Many millions. And again, it's a good opening night if you're into this and you're there, and they were into it. You know, part of me thinks it's a missed opportunity because if you're going to get someone like that and she has this kind of popularity, try to start an all-women's group for your company, an all-women's TV show. Because it's good night one. These women's segments die a death on this show every single week. So it's a special night, big crowd. They're going to Toronto next. Apparently it'll be another nice-sized crowd in the 5,000 range, I would guess.
For Edge and Christian in the blow-off of their...
Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. You can't call him just Christian because that part is owned by WWE, but with a last name, it's owned by him.
Okay, well, whichever two of these fucking mullet heads it is, the point is that Sasha Banks just got 9,000 in Boston to come out and do a bad fucking promo. So you mean to tell me Edge and Christian or whatever they're going as these days only going to get 5,000 in their hometown to have a match? Jumping Jehoshaphat.
Well, maybe they'll do more. Again, we'll see how it works out. But well, how do you rank the Mercedes Moné debut? What do you think of it compared to other big debuts in AEW? And
what?
Do you? I don't know what else to ask.
She has a fan base, apparently, from what we're told, that likes her wherever she goes and what she does. So if she can bring those people, whatever that number is, into AEW in addition to who they already had, then maybe they've got a few more. And that would be nice for them. But based on performance of anything, besides taking her fucking clothes off, this was, for me, not knowing really that much about her or having seen that much of her, or if I have, it ain't registered. This was another girl doing another interview that she sounds like she memorized. This is not a game-changing, world-shaking, male or female acquisition. I'd rather see Chris Statlander get used to her potential than this one come in for millions of dollars to do a stripper dance. What the fuck else did she do here? She said nothing except, "Oh, I love all you people. It's always been my dream to be here."
I was hoping she would name drop Sheldon Goldberg, but it never happened.
Well, and that's because, it was a bitter breakup that Sheldon initiated.
We're not supposed to talk about that.
Well, she couldn't handle the size of his
collection.
Anyway,
collection.
His size of his collection, his all of his package was so huge to What did you think? That are we done with Sasha Monet here? Whatever she'll be out later on, I assume, because the DVR froze again. But you can tell me when we get there. Can we move on to the AEW World Title match? I'm interested in getting your thoughts. Is there any further mystery to the question? Will Wardlow be a main event guy in this company?
You know, I am such a sucker. At one point during this match, it's like, I started convincing myself, like, if he wins here, even though he's been used like such dog shit for so long, this is a big house, a lot of attention on this show. Next segment after the Mercedes Moné debut. If you were ever going to try to do something with Wardlow, right now may be the moment. And then they zipped right past that moment and choked him out again on live TV. And I'm like, well, there goes any moments going forward with Wardlow.
Well, but actually, and I don't know whether this was intentional on Tony Khan's part or the part of anybody in AEW, but for once they dodged a bullet. Because finally, after all this back and forth, start and stop, he's a babyface, he's a heel, he's here, he's gone. What the bad angles, bad booking. Wardlow gets a match with Samoa Joe, the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, and I don't know that Samoa Joe has ever compared himself to a Terry Funk or technically to a Jack Briscoe, but I've seen Samoa Joe have a lot of great matches, haven't you?
I was on mute. There was no dramatic pause there, ladies and gentlemen. I was on mute for a moment. Yes, I have seen Samoa Joe have many great matches.
Well, if this is the best match he could have with Samoa Joe, then they dodged a bullet. Wardlow needs choked out and left by the side of the road. This was the shits. And Joe not only laid back and let Wardlow do things to him, tried to sell if he could, tried to work the match where Wardlow was more physically dominant. Even he was chopping Wardlow, and Wardlow wasn't backing up as far as when Wardlow would hit Joe. Joe tried his Wardlow is the shits at having a competitive match. Apparently, that's why he gets his biggest cheers when he just power bombs job guys. He jump-started it. They immediately went to the floor. And, of course, this, again, the booking is odd for crowd reaction to begin with because Joe is a heel champion that is cheered by most of the audience, except when he's against Swerve Strickland, another heel, in which case Swerve is more popular. But Wardlow's being presented as a heel here, but he's not over because of all the screwy booking and being involved with Taven and Bennett and call this whole group that it was even death even to their faithful fans. So they're not really going to be chomping at the bit, jumping up and down, throwing babies in the air to see this anyway. But they go out and they stay on the floor, and Wardlow is leading Samoa Joe, this 300-pound Samoan submission machine. He's leading him around the floor in a fake fight with his palm of his right hand on the back of Joe's head. Joe's head is as big as a basketball, and Wardlow can't palm one, apparently. It's just, Joe is going for him. He's bumping for him. Wardlow's punches look like shit. At one point, you see Joe shoot Wardlow off corner to corner, and obviously Joe must have said, watch the back elbow, because when Joe runs in to give the back elbow and then turn around and do his fucking kick to the head that he always does, trademark spot, if you notice this, when Joe runs in for the back elbow, Wardlow turned and tried to give him a back elbow. And so he turned sideways, and Joe crashed in with his elbow and didn't sell Wardlow's and then gave him the kick. But he's lost. The guy can't be led. His basics suck, and he looks like shit. And he had an opportunity to be a big, dominant, wild-ass motherfucker and get all over the goddamn AEW World Champion and impress somebody. I'm talking about somebody in the back. I'm talking about somebody in the business. Tell us why you need to be pushed. Here's your opportunity, big boy. And it was the shits. And by the time they got back from the break they took in the middle of it, it was in quicksand. You know, and then they did a spot where Wardlow faked the knee injury and then came back to hit that shitty looking knee lift that he does off the rope where he's holding the guy by the neck, and that doesn't translate. Then he misses a senton. This guy can do a perfect senton to the middle of the ring. He can't throw a punch or a fucking kick. And then they did a little awkward back and forth, and then Joe got the sleeper on him and choked him out. The end. Holy fuck. Just make him a bodyguard. At this point, if he ain't got it by now, I wouldn't hold out a lot of fucking hope.
Is this one of those things like a Goldberg thing? Like, he was great at being Goldberg, but he's not necessarily great at working, especially in his early days, a long match.
That's the thing, is that he's not even like Goldberg, because Goldberg was visually and over as a personality standing there. Wardlow looks like a fucking accountant where steroids ran rampant. He's got a normal face. He's not like, he has nowhere near he screams and you can tell he's probably not a hothead in real life, because when he screams and yells, it's like he's losing his mind rather than he's mad. You can tell he's probably one of these fucking guys sits in the corner, plays video game, looks at his fucking telephone. So it's not Goldberg who's fucking headbutting lockers and firing himself up to fucking punch holes in limousines. He's going out, Wardlow is, and playing a part like all of his friends go to work and play parts instead of be what those things are. But no, if this is his work by now with the AEW champion, give it up. Sorry. And then Swerve came out and beat up security and hit the ring with a big logging chain, but Joe walked out laughing at him. And that's what happened there. I don't know. Tell me I'm wrong.
I can't tell you you're too wrong. Again, I thought for a little while they may do something crazy just because, the big crowd, and they were giving him a little bit for a while there, and then he's choked out. That's the end of Wardlow, right?
Well, I mean, it should be, but not in this booking environment. No, it doesn't have to be, but it should be. And that's the thing when I say that Joe was laying back, letting Wardlow do his stuff in a lot of this. And he'd fire back with the punches or whatever, but he gave Wardlow plenty of open to be. If Wardlow knew he was having that match and didn't come in with 5 fucking spots that he wanted to pitch to Samoa Joe to make himself look like a goddamn beast, and more than just punching and kicking and doing moves and getting on a guy and rattling him around the fucking guardrail out on the floor. I'm talking creative shit, fucking actual goddamn wrestling moves that end up in some fashion making him look like a monster. It was just blah. It was 2 guys with concrete boots. Anywho, did you like Officer Bar Brady's interview with the douchebag brothers and Cody Okada?
Kota Ibushi, where were they? Were they in a hotel?
No, it's not Kota Ibushi.
Not Kota Ibushi. Excuse me.
They amputated.
You said Cody. It threw me off. Okada. Kazuchika Okada.
Ibushi got his feet amputated a couple months ago.
I am interested by, first of all, a return from Alex Marvez, the single worst on-air announcer character in wrestling. And now the Bucks, because they don't know how to do any of this and do it well. It's bad comedy. It's 2 guys pretending to be pretend executives. And they're stealing lines from this thing.
That's a no-brainer. Let's really drill down on this. We're gaining traction. We have to be disruptive. I feel like there's a disconnect. What would be the key learnings here? Let's circle back to that. I'm at capacity.
So, yeah, and the Bushi, making Alex Marvez sing Happy Birthday. I'll let you sum up the rest, but I didn't like this very much.
Well, the thing is that obviously, as you said, Marvez and Alex Marvez, everybody says he's a nice guy. It's just, why do they keep putting him on television? It's sad and nobody can defend it, except he's a friend of theirs and he says nice things about them in the newspaper. And he's standing there with a microphone, and here come the douchebag brothers, Matty and Nikki. And they come down the escalator wherever they are, and they blister poor old Bar Brady for disrespecting Okada, who comes down with them because he didn't pronounce his full name properly or whatever. And then Matty, the mouthy brother, the mouthy one, he blathered on with some stuff that in no way helped anything or furthered anything. And then we found out Okada can speak English to some degree, but he's the one that makes Bar Brady sing happy birthday to the other buck over there. And fortunately, they cut it off because he can't sing nearly as well as I can. But now they've paid, regardless of which report you believe, at least a couple $1,000,000 a year to this fucking guy who looks like the Japanese Cody with his bleached hair and is now doing fucking goofy, unfunny comedy that they don't even really think is comedy with the announcers in pre-tapes. And the only reason they put him with the Bucks to begin with was so that they could be artificially propped up with crowd reaction in their matches and their angle, because they knew that this audience would be interested in this fucking guy Okada. And then you need really go no further or wait very long, because in the next match, that's them when they do their entrances. Nobody gives a shit about the Buckaroos when they come out. And then Okada on a separate entrance gets a big reaction because they like him. And so, but at the same time, the fans like him and think he's the best wrestler in the world. So they put him in a group with the heels. So he would be a heel because the EVPs are smarmy, douchebaggy heels. So they sign for millions of dollars the wrestler that people like, just like they did with Ostrich. People are cheering him like crazy. We'll get to that in a minute. Oh my God, they love him to pea-picking death. And they put him in the heel group with the heel manager that everybody hates. And then they have him wrestle other guys in the group at behest of the heel manager, and he's still a babyface and nobody turns on him. So it's all self-serving bullshit to take the most expensive playthings of Richie Rich that he is spending money for and put them with other people that are as over as a goddamn turd in a punch bowl to get them artificial reactions. Am I lying or am I flying? My feet ain't left the ground.
Then I guess that kind of rules that out, doesn't it?
Okay, so the next match was the Buckaroos and Okada versus This Is the Team. In a 6-man tag team match, Eddie Kingston, Penthouse of the Lucha Brothers, and the returning from, he's been gone for a long time, we don't know why, and we didn't miss him, Pac. Do you have to be on psychedelic drugs to put this kind of a team together that have absolutely not only nothing in common with each other and work completely opposite styles, but are completely irrelevant as far as a combination, but still involving one of your champions, Kingston, that they've made the Continental Breakfast champion, and another of your top alleged tag teams, although we don't see them too much anymore, not that I'm complaining, to be, what the fuck? So to pick this match apart, I would have had to watch it. And I'm not going to tolerate the Bucks. But I wanted to see Okada, right? So I feel like many people out there feel. Don't want to look at the fucking Buckaroos. Like to see Okada. So I zip ahead to the point where Okada gets in the ring. Brian, do you remember what Okada did when he first got in the ring?
When he first got in the ring, actually, I don't remember, no. Okay,
well, let's say that I'm like, I don't know, there's 350 million people in the United States. Let's say I'm like 349,400,000 of them. I don't really know who the fuck Okada is or know why I should care. That's the general average American wrestling audience, not the hypersensitive, hyper-tuned in AEW audience. So out of let's say half of those have been watching faithfully, even though that's multiple times the ratings that New Japan Wrestling gets. But let's say that half the AEW audience knows well who Okada is, the other half have heard of him, and anybody that just wandered by because of all this publicity doesn't know who he is, but they're waiting to be impressed because they've heard wonderful things, right? Okay. Okada gets in with Eddie Kingston. Okada stands there and lets Kingston chop him and doesn't sell it. Okada hits Eddie Kingston with a fake forearm. Okada lets Eddie Kingston chop him and doesn't sell it. Okada hits Eddie Kingston with a fake forearm. Okada lets Eddie Kingston chop him 3 more times, and this time he staggers. But when Kingston hits the ropes, Okada hits Kingston with a very nice drop kick. And then he stands up with a bored expression on his face, goes over and knocks the other 2 baby faces off the apron, and tags out. But he doesn't get out of the ring because then all 3 of the heels start triple teaming Kingston in front of the referee while the other 2 stayed out of the ring because they had been tapped on the head by a fake forearm. And that was their break spot. And when they came back, I didn't. Because are you fucking shitting me this guy's the best in the world? What world and at what?
He was very good in main event matches in New Japan. Again, he's being used here. He won, he hit Eddie Kingston, I believe, with the Rainmaker short arm clothesline.
Oh, yes. Well, I came back for the finish, just not for the rest of the match. But no, I tuned in for the finish when they beat Kingston when Nikki football kicked Eddie Kingston between the uprights in the balls, and then Okada grabbed the arm and hit that short arm clothesline. 1, 2, 3. And Sockface was selling the shitty clothesline as being devastating until Taz had to come in and mention, well, by the way, he kicked him in the balls first, you idiot. That's the heat. That's what we're supposed to be talking. Oh, the devastating Rainmaker clothesline. Do they think the Rainmaker clothesline is going to get over here? Because is that the way he does it in Japan?
Yeah, I mean, that's the short arm clothesline. He does.
Okay. Everybody in this company hits fucking clotheslines that look more devastating, that come from farther, that come faster, that draw back from further, that hit harder, and that guys take better bumps for. Can you deny that?
Say that again?
Everybody in this company, the clotheslines you see, the lariats you see, the buckshots you see, they come from farther back, they come faster, they hit harder, they look better, and guys take bigger bumps for them. Then this short arm clothesline that they think is going to get over with a cold audience from this guy? That's why I'm saying, he used to fucking 10 years ago knock people's heads off or add some kind of flying component, or he's just walking through it now?
I mean, no, this is the way he does it. He has a big drop kick, and then he does this.
The drop kick is better than the clothesline? I'd give it, his drop kick should be his finish. This clothesline is nothing that any of these guys don't do to each other 12 times in a fucking match or worse. It's not Stan Hansen hitting somebody at a dead run is what I'm saying to you.
So far, do you think they've capitalized well on Okada's celebrity and fame within wrestling amongst the smart wrestling fans?
Jesus Christ. I wrote, this guy's a rib on Tony Khan. Explain to me about what I am seeing in front of me that indicates that he's the best wrestler in the world or that he's going to be a gigantic box office attraction for this company. I'm not talking about what he's done other places or what some people think of him. I'm talking about what's he going to do for poor old Tony Khan.
It will excite existing fans of his.
Hey, 20 minutes of television time. So then we got to 9 o'clock. And Tony Schiavone was in the ring and gave another awkward introduction. It's like, I don't know if we want Tony to be the master of ceremonies at any honors banquets or roasts because he's fucking losing his train here. And finally he gets around to the introduction. Will Ostrich, here he is, folks. And this guy he's acting like, is being talked about like, and is being treated like a total babyface. But he's in the heel group wrestling Bryan Danielson on the pay-per-view. Danielson is in a babyface group, quote unquote, that wrestles and act like heels. And Ostrich here says he's looking forward to wrestling Danielson for all these beautiful people, and not in a heelish way. But no, I love all of you. Y'all great. I can't wait to wrestle Bryan Danielson for all you beautiful people. And then he went into a section where he talked about, people were talking about his match with old Kenny Olivier and the Tiger Driver 91, and I'm not sure what point he was making here. One of those idiots got dropped on their head, didn't they? Somebody got dropped on their head.
Omega did, I believe.
Okay, yeah. So I guess he's going to drop Danielson on his head, too. And then his quote was, "Restore the feeling. I am the feeling." I mean, the good thing about this guy is you can tell he means everything he's saying. He really does. The problem is he's not saying any fucking thing.
What did he say there? Because he said that's an expression in the back, restore the feeling.
Yeah, I don't know.
Restore the feeling of what, 2019, before you guys realize how this was going to go?
It's smart fan stuff, or it's referring to, they do this a lot. Well, in old Mercedes referred to the match she had with Willow in New Japan Wrestling, that, okay, if you're on the internet, you'll probably know about that. But so I don't know whether some of this is smart fan talk, whether some of this is English expressions or UK expressions from across the pond. He means everything he's saying, but nobody's ever taught him how to say shit to sell tickets, how to. He's got the enthusiasm. He's got the emotion. He needs the verbiage. He needs the points. He needs the psychology of the way. And, well, of course, there's no psychology in this booking. So basically, what he's left to have to say here is April 21st is about finding out who the best wrestler in the world really is. Oh, joy. No, it's not, because it's not for the world title. It's about finding out who, between the two of you, who some of the internet fans think supposedly is the best wrestler in the world. But you can't sell a cold match between two guys that people like that are fighting for no reason other than they want to see who the best wrestler in the world is, except to this basic fan base that's there for everything. But it's not about finding out who the best wrestler in the world is, and it shouldn't be allowed to say that because it's not for the world title. So Tony Khan is allowing these people to come out and say, we're the best wrestlers in the world, not your world champion. And he endorses it. I don't know what the fuck is going on here. What'd you think?
I mean, I think it's good in the sense that the fans are really reacting to him. You could see why you want him to be a babyface. He's not necessarily easy to understand. And it's less about the accent, I think, than the accent with the voice.
Yeah.
Because it's very much like it's hard to, the fuck's he saying? And then the bruv thing, I mean, we'll see if he gets that over. I mean, that's kind of his thing. The people there seem to be liking it. The whole breakup with the Callis family hasn't really worked out. Now he's going to do something with Danielson. Maybe we'll get the Callis family versus the BCC. Isn't that what we need?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But they're doing better with him than Okada so far, I think.
Yeah.
So they got that going for him.
The advantage is with him, at least he can speak English in a fashion. You may have trouble understanding him, but at least he can speak English. With Okada, he spoke some, but it was limited. But he doesn't look to me, Okada, like even if he was fluent in Japanese, that he would be a fireball promo, because he is
fluent in Japanese, I promise you.
What I mean, even if he was fluent in English, all right, asshole. Even if he was fluent in English, would he sound as boring as his facial expressions indicate and his body language? I see boredom coming off this motherfucker.
How about the fact that Ospreay went home to England, put up a tweet announcing it, and then he's back here for this? Is Tony flying him home after every Dynamite? He said a big reason why he signed with AEW, besides more money, much more money guaranteed to start, but also the family life. He'd be there with his wife and kid, be a part of their lives. It's a very nice, noble thing. Most companies would say, you're out of your mind. You got to come work here. Is Tony flying him back after every taping?
Oh, my God. And by the way, I don't care how much again, as I asked about something earlier, how much fucking money in the world to take a flight from the United States to England or vice versa and back every goddamn week? That would be hell, literally hell on earth, but it would also be something that'd be stupid enough that Tony Khan would pay for. So he can...
Hell on earth, or as they call it in England, the menu.
If touche, very good. Wait a minute now, so they're 5 hours ahead of us over there. So he would have to leave on a Tuesday morning in order to get here by Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, do a TV, and then he would leave on Thursday morning and be back there by Thursday after. So he would only, if you were willing to be crazy enough to do that fucking flight over and back, he could leave on Tuesday morning, be back on Thursday afternoon, and still live in England and work Dynamite. Good God.
Imagine if they bring the Concorde back.
I don't know. If they brought the Concorde back, he might come in and have his eardrums pop from breaking the sound barrier or whatever. But could that be a thing that it could actually go on even when Tony gets people that have some appeal to the fans, he will either overpay or overstimulate them with bonuses and extras to the point where there's absolutely no way you could ever make your money back out of any of these fucking guys.
Not about money. It's about passion and love.
Well, he's getting a love. Tony Khan is. He's getting loved with a passion right up the old Hershey Highway. So, speaking of people who are the shits, let's go to the next match. Jay White versus Darby Allin.
Ooh.
And, hopefully Darby's going to leave to climb that mountain pretty soon, so we don't have to watch him anymore because I'm done with him after that stunt the other day. But on Fast Forward, it looked like they were on the floor for a good part of this. And at one point, Darby then does a coffin drop off the top rope to the guy on the apron, but the guy moved, so he bounced off the apron, landed on the floor. And don't worry, folks, he rolled in to beat the count at 9, but then Jay White picked him up and hit him with his finish, 1, 2, 3. So just to make sure that this idiot has an out, and they're going to hurt him now later, but so he has an out in the finish when he's going to climb Mount Everest. We don't know if he's coming back living. Instead of putting Jay White over like a, I guess, normal human being, he's got to do something that should paralyze him so that then Jay White's finish will work. And then the booking comes in. Remember that Jay White and the Gun Boys have formed a super group with the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn called the Gang Bang Scissor Clan.
Well, no, the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. There's no gang. There's just a Bang Bang Scissor.
There's a gang.
No, there's a gang at the end. There's no gang at the beginning.
Well, it always turns out it's a start. It's just a couple, but there's a gang by the end of it.
It's the gang. It's not the gang. It's the Bang Bang Scissor Gang.
Well, they started that group, and I know you're never going to believe what happened here coming up next, Brian. But Jay White and the Guns then decide to get further heat on Darby Allin, and they get a chair and they go to Pillmanize his leg with a chair on it and a baseball bat. But here comes the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn and make the save. And they tell the heels, no, do not do this. And they milk it forever. And the Acclaimed has taken Darby to the back for medical treatment. And Billy Gunn's telling Jay White, no, bad dog, no. And he takes his bat, throws it down. And then as Billy Gunn turns around, soon as Billy Gunn's back is turned, Jay White takes the chair and hits him in the head with it. And then they start getting heat on Billy Gunn. The Acclaimed see this. The stupid baby faces who couldn't see this coming from these heels, they get in and they get the shit kicked out of them too. And then they hit everybody with the chairs, and then they put the chair on Darby's ankle and hit it with the baseball bat so that he can leave in a couple weeks and go climb Mount Everest and fall in a fucking ice flow along with whale shit and never be seen again.
Will you stop it?
Well, what the fuck? They got... Just have the guy do a goddamn... He's already announced he's leaving the country to risk his life.
That's the puzzling thing. He announced he's going on the trip, and then they did the injury angle.
Then we heard him. So now we should hear he can't fucking climb the mountain. That's the only way this makes sense.
Then you get heat on the heels. Darby can't live his lifelong dream by going to the top of the mountain.
Yes. And the heels can come out and say, we just saved his fool-ass life because he ain't got no sense. He ain't got the good sense up in his head. That's what they could say. And some of this shit would make sense, but no, when people already know he's leaving, he doesn't just do a job, they injure him so that he, in their fake world, so that he can go off and let Tony Khan pay him to climb Mount Everest. Fucking moron. Further thoughts on this?
Jay White continues to unimpress, whether it's on the mic, whether it's to be taken seriously as a heel, or just in the ring. He doesn't really stand out. He's very skinny. Darby was about the same size as him, just Jay White's cut. And Darby, I watched that match. I had some people here, and they were saying things like, oh my God, he's going to break his back. I said, he's about to climb Mount Everest. How's he going to climb Mount Everest? I said, I know. That's the thing. If he's going to climb Mount Everest, do an injury angle, get him out there, unless you're going to make it about him losing the dream to climb Mount Everest, which he may have done when he covered his body in small cuts at the pay-per-view. I don't know.
Yeah, that couldn't have been an injury angle. It had to be this fake shit instead of that real stuff. What the fuck? And besides, he'll come back. He's going to have, I predict, he will have one of his 4 extremities, one of the 2 hands or one of the 2 legs amputated for frostbite by the time he fucks around and does stupid shit over there. He'll come back hopping around on 1 leg.
We have to somehow get you past these bad feelings about Darby. He's just a confused guy who likes to have a lot of pain to get through his pain.
Yeah, well, he can have some of mine. I've had some hemorrhoids in the past I'd love to have given him.
They'll be on Cornette's Collectibles next week.
As well, but not cheap. All right, speaking of cheap, Chris Jericho and Hook wrestled Tia Leone and Bishop Khan.
Hey, can I stop you real quick here at the top?
Please do.
Besides the fact we predicted this kind of shit with Jericho latching onto another person, does Jericho not coming out to Judas expose just how much of the Jericho pop was purely Judas?
Yes. It was the American love of karaoke, not the American love of Chris Jericho.
That's an excellent way to put it. He's coming out now as Lionheart, the gimmick being he's young and follows the rules. I don't know what the Lionheart gimmick is.
He's got the heart of a lion.
He's got the heart of a lion. Corazon de Leon, I believe was his name in CMLL. And he's teaming up with Hook. And I've been saying it a little longer than other people who are now accepting it. He can't cut it in the ring anymore, especially with some of these guys. I mean, these guys aren't especially crazy in the ring or anything.
That's what I was going to be fair. Jericho still, and for his age, and with all the caveats, and if he's in there with a top guy, but these ain't top guys, and this ain't it, bro, dog, fella, dude.
That's right. This is not it. I didn't know that was a pause for me, but...
Well, I didn't know any of the other colloquialisms that the kids use for fellow brother these days.
We said it was going to happen. And it coincided with that Jericho-Kylie Ray story, which has never been resolved. And it's still out there in the ether, and no one's denied it, no one's confirmed it. It's just out there. So if you're of the know, you're of the know, that you know nothing. But no one's saying anything. But that's still out there. Coinciding with Jericho not being as good in the ring, his material being as lame as it's been for a long time, but more people noticing it now. He's really, really rough on the it's hard. There's so much bad shit in AEW, but Jericho may have more go-away heat right now with a lot of that audience than people realize.
But at worst, it's just, what in the world is going on here? Poor Hook. There's something there, but he's lost in the fun house here. And, but
it's like Wardlow. How long can you be there in that company and have potential until you have to show it? I mean, and I like Hook, nothing against him personally, but how long has he been? He's been there for like 4 years. He's been a wrestler for like 2, maybe. Do you ever feel like he's elevated past where he is?
Well, every once in a while, but then he goes away or does something stupid, or he's involved with the mascots and the comedy crowd or whatever the case. And now, like I said, some of the cool kids still like him, so Jericho is his big brother now, or potentially drunk uncle or whatever the fuck. But anyway, they won this match. But did you notice when Tia Leone and Bishop Khan were announced by the ring announcer, what's her name?
That's what is her name? Dasha.
Well, whatever.
That's Dasha.
Well, Dasha does it. But she announced, accompanied by Prince Nana, he didn't come out. Now that's just like AEW to have a miscommunication amongst something like this, but does it show that they finally realized that it's counterproductive to have the manager of the most popular wrestler in the company also managing underneath heels? And it doesn't make sense. And why are you doing that? And either that, or maybe nobody told him he was supposed to go out. I mean, you never know with this company, but hopefully it's a step in the right direction.
The Gates
That's
of
what
Agony.
I noticed.
The Gates of Agony. That's their name?
Apparently it is.
They're each a gate. They're each
maybe it's the Goats of Agony.
And the other group in the WWE, the Disciples of Apocalypse. All right, so I'm just making fun of these bad names. They used to be great tag team names. No one has them anymore.
Well, Disciples of Apocalypse was because Shitstain thought that any acronym for DOA, Dead on Arrival, that'll be cool.
Oh, that's not even who I was thinking of. What are the name of the two guys right now on SmackDown?
Oh, no, that's the Authors of Pain.
Authors of Pain. They're authors. That's what it was. They're not even disciples. They actually write
they're
the story.
AOP, which is almost like an offshoot of America Online. We don't know what the fuck's going on with that.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with OPP. You went with AOL. Very interesting.
Well, I'm down with AOL, or you can be down with the OPP.
Well, you know me. So let's move on with Dynamite.
All righty. Well, Renee Moxley Good was in the back with Kyle O'Reilly. I'm going to get to the main event in a second. And again, what in the world? They brought Kyle back from neck fusion, and he's such a good and different, unique performer in the ring. We talked about the unique style he has, and he's so aggressive. He belies his slight frame, as they say. But now he's standing there in T-shirts with sweat stains and tousled hair. Oh, the darkest days of my life are over, not just not being able to wrestle, but I don't know if I could pick my daughters up. But now I wonder if I can still hang here with this roster of world-class stars they've got, the great talent. But I've found somebody to bring out the best in me. Brian Keith. Who? Reedy, crickets. What the fuck? The guy has neck surgery, potentially could never wrestle again, is coming back. He comes out and thank you. He does a bit with Roddy with a T-shirt. Then he does where he looks like a homeless hobo. Then he does a backstage deal where he says nothing. Now he does another backstage deal. And then Roddy and the Stooges come in, and Roddy says, I respect you, Kyle. If you want to do this on your own, you do it on your own. And they hugged, and everybody walked away. What the fuck is this?
It's the hottest comeback I've seen since Mike Von Erich's. No, I can't explain. I can't. Too soon. Too soon from the movie or the actual real life incident?
Too soon from the actual real life comeback.
Where they rushed him into the ring and he wasn't right. No, at least he washed his shirt.
Yeah, it's true. He was clean. He had brain damage, but he was clean.
I'm talking about not Mike Von Erich. I'm talking about.
Oh, God. No, I mean,
he was wearing a clean shirt.
He was always wearing clean shirts. He couldn't find his way home at night, but he had a clean shirt on. So anyway.
And Roddy Strong still walks in from like a foot off camera, has to yell his name, Kyle! Because that's not dead enough.
Well, speaking of being dead, if the ratings aren't already, I bet that we might vamp around long enough that they'll come out. So, the main event of this program was Riho versus Willow for, I don't know, and they played footage of the Willow had beaten not Naomi, but Sasha, Mercedes, Monet, whichever name she's using, in Japan. Oh, horrors. And Riho was the former women's champion here, and this is just ridiculous. And they had Mercedes wish Riho good luck in the back, and she looks scared to death of Mercedes. Mercedes walks off, and Riho stared like she just saw goddamn Boris Karloff in full makeup. She just looks that way. What the fuck is this? Again, this was the main event of the program on national television because Tony believes that he's gotten something and Mercedes has to do a run-in because of this hot angle from when they had a match in Japan 2 years ago or whatever the fuck. And they went, I don't know how long because my DVR froze at 10 o'clock when the show should have been over, but it was on at least 10 minutes before that. Riho looks like they stretched skin over a medical school skeleton. And I swear to God, if she didn't have papers to prove her age, somebody would be investigating or reporting AEW. And it's visually, again, ridiculous that there's Willow Nightingale, big for one of the girls. And she's literally having to suplex herself and throw herself around without at the same time squashing this minute, frail little flower that they're trying to talk about like is a competent professional athlete in any capacity besides gymnastics. Your thoughts, Brian?
I thought Willow Nightingale was incredibly impressive here because there were several things that were just purely her doing it. I mean, there was one, I saw someone even put up a video of her giving herself a suplex and then lifting her own legs in preparation for Riho needing to grab the leg. That's unfortunately the reality here. They do what they can to prop Riho up. Riho at best is basic, and they want to pretend like she's some amazing wrestler.
It's insulting. It's fucking insulting. You would expect something like this from Saturday Night Live with Riho and Pockets and a couple of the other ones who are in no way legitimate pro wrestlers or whatever, are unserious performers in every aspect. And it's insulting to the business, and it offends me. But at some point, I don't care about Pockets. He's a grown adult man, allegedly. Not mentally, but at least chronologically. I don't care what happens to him. But they're going to get this girl killed, having her do all this shit with grown adults landing on her. At some point, what the fuck? It was a joke. It wasn't funny at the start. It's been over and done and dead for a long time. Nobody clamors to see this girl. Anybody that has any kind of respect for the business is insulted by the sight of it. And so I ask you the question to sum this up. Did Mercedes Monet run in on the end of this to justify it being on in the last position and Tony thinking that people will hang out to see whatever this girl does?
Yes, Mercedes Monet did in fact come back out at the end.
And I bet you not till after Riho probably beat Willow flat in the middle, even though she gave up 100 pounds and a foot in height and a lot of talent.
Willow Nightingale actually beat Riho in the main event.
No!
Yes, she did.
How in the world did she do that? Bazooka or cannonball to the cranium?
Well, they're trying to set up Willow for a big rematch with the person she injured, I guess. Mercedes Monet. That's why Mercedes came back out. Or Mercedes drove back out, I feel like would be more appropriate to say. To show who's the real CEO by doing her dances and poses.
Tony, won't you buy me a Mercedes Monet? I had all my pages and Brits go away. I need a new girl to have for my own. Oh, Tony, won't you buy me old Mercedes Moan?
It's Monet. You can't really do it in the song if you can't come up with a way to rhyme the actual words.
I'll goddamn worry about my rhyming, and you worry about your names.
Yeah, all right. The pompatus of songwriting over here, Jim Cornette.
Oh, thank you, Steve Miller.
Thank you, Mr. You're not Steve Miller. But we're gonna go jet airliner, and we're gonna talk about. I guess that was it. That was the main event.
Yes.
The AEW women's scene has never been hotter. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. You have to think we'll be back at some point soon. Now we'll have a loaded female roster and, of course, all these great empty segments to put them in. And I'm dying to see the ratings, too, and they are not in yet.
Well, we'll dick around here with some of these other topics long enough. I'm sure they will be.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite Big Business in Boston. All right, it's a quick trip, not trap. It's a trap. It's a quick trip to the future here, just to get caught up on things.
No wonder that time travel always takes so long. You're trying to figure out how to get your mouth in position to formulate a coherent sentence.
That is correct. A quick trap here to the future. We've been talking about AEW Dynamite, a barn burner of a show.
Try as we might, we could not dawdle about long enough for the ratings to come out, so we took a little break just so, because we couldn't leave the people hanging on this one, hanging on the edge of the cliff.
Well, we'll find out about cliffs in this episode here, the ratings here. AEW Dynamite on TBS, AEW Big Business, I believe it was, Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, 8 to 10:06 p.m. On average, not counting the overrun, which Nielsen, according to WrestleNomics, the reporting of WrestleNomics, overrun not included due to Nielsen error, 801,000 viewers.
Ouch! So it worked in the newest Game Changers hometown, but it didn't play in Peoria, as they used to say in show business, because this was again on the lower end of what they've been doing, and I think was it up 10,000? They did in the sevens last week, didn't they, or did they?
Last week was 779, so it's up 3% from that.
They got back to almost what they've been doing before they signed the $6 million woman. But anyway, there's another story to be told here, and everybody's got to finish their story in the wrestling business. But there's another story to be told. So if the listeners out there would strap their seatbelts in, we're about to go on a bobsled run, are we not?
Well, it'll be a very interesting story here. I do want to ask you one thing, though, knowing this is the overall number, without knowing the rest of the story here. Did AEW do it right or wrong going for the CM Punk model of not announcing her, but teasing her enough that if you paid attention, you may know? But if you're someone who only knows her as Sasha Banks, you may not? Did they do the right thing? Was this the best case scenario because that's just where her popularity is? Or even if that's the case, could this have been a bigger thing? What do you think?
Here, without being involved in the contract negotiations with this company, you never know. Was there something screwy going on that they couldn't announce her? Were all the I's dotted and the T's crossed? I mean, it seems like they were, because not only did they strongly insinuate and name the show after her, and without naming it after her, you know what I'm saying, all of the hints and clues that were dropped, it didn't take Columbo to figure it out, and up to and including her friends talking about on Twitter that day that they were there to support her in her debut, but the company officially never said yes. The artist formerly known as Sasha Banks, and now now I've lost her goddamn new name of
Mercedes
Moné.
Monet, not Moan.
Mercedes moan. As a matter of fact, that's what people are doing probably now, moaning. But they did everything but say she was going to be there, and she was there. So the point I'm making is, unless there was some bizarre reason that we are not aware of, that they couldn't officially say this, and I can't imagine what that reason would be, yes, they shit the bed. Because I'm trying to, there was some back, the first time Punk made his debut, not the re-debut.
The first time in Chicago, the first dance.
The first time in Chicago. There was still, it was a fluid situation until shortly before that, as I remember. And then, but they had the hold on the building and a blah, blah, blah. And it kind of organically grew. And it was a comeback after 7 years away of somebody who had, you know, regardless what you think of Punk, a big star who had said, I'm never going to do this again. And now, oh, shit. And the conditions were right. It was like the thunderstorms. The conditions were right. But with this, if you knew she was going to be there, if you had your deal made in time, for the last month on television, talk about it. In her hometown, or the legendary New Boston Garden, the former, whatever they can get away with saying, you know who she was. She's going to debut in AEW because she didn't goddamn really do anything. You couldn't have, it wasn't like a surprise angle where she comes from under the ring and fucks or tears the door off the cage and tombstones the Undertaker. There was, so yes, say for a month she's going to debut. Is she going to talk? Is she going to wrestle? You don't have to say that. She will be here live from her hometown, but she will let everybody know what her condition is after her injury and what her plans are for AEW. And then you could have her, if she's from that town, I assume the 9,000 people that were in the Garden know that, you know, that's what their attraction was. But can she get media in Boston? She's been with the WWE. Send her to fucking Boston to do the morning radio show. They could have held more. They could have sold more tickets if they'd have tried hard. So, yeah, but not only for your ratings, maybe to build some anticipation, whatever the anticipation of the addition of Mercedes Moan will be.
Nay.
Well, yay or nay, either one.
Monet, not yay or nay, Monet.
Well, Moni. Fucking, and I think
Tommy James and the Shondells. That's right, a great band.
I think I'm going to be alone here if you don't quit chiming in. That's what I'm saying. Use it for ratings if she's got some cachet in the industry. Use it for publicity to sell some tickets to this fucking off-brand show you're producing. Blanket the world with it, because why not? There was nothing that was of a surprise element. And then she ran in at the last match, which you knew was going to happen, which I believe we said earlier before the ratings came in the previous part of the program. They put her on first, and you know, the smart fans would know, well, she's there to run in with Willow and whatever the fuck's going to go on there. But it wasn't like you were told. They couldn't advertise. Yeah, she's going to run in at the end of the show and interfere. But the casual, fuck you, there is no casual person watching this fucking fiasco. But that's the point. That's why, because most people, well, it's over. And as a matter of fact, many of these goddamn people, it's over. It's over. It's over.
It's over, but they're not over. But let's get back to the crystal blue persuasion that is AEW Dynamite here.
Very good.
A very good story. Of course, it's very good. I know more about him than you do. AEW Dynamite.
Goddamn, just because he's from New Jersey.
He's not from New Jersey.
Well, he ought to be. He looks like it. Go ahead.
He may look like it. AEW Dynamite on TBS, March 13th, 2024, as reported by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The Mercedes Moné live promo and the Samoa Joe backstage promo. 1 million viewers with, in the key demo, 423,000 viewers.
So they have started out, and they didn't say she was going to be on first, but this is the range. It's been 900 and something, so we got 1 million, maybe people tuning in early.
Well, you're exactly right, because WrestleNomics has a trend line here, and I'll say it in advance, Q1 and Q2 are almost directly in line with the 90-day trend line.
Well, there you go. And everybody knows it's more important to trend good than to feel good. But they start out with 1 million people to get hooked into this, the Mercedes mania that's going on. It's sweeping the streets like wildfire, brother. Look at those fucking 12-inch pythons on her.
And although we don't have the overrun, we always say it's really Q2 that tells the true story of where the audience is starting. And Q2 is the Adam Cole video, 8:30 p.m., I should say. And Samoa Joe versus Wardlow with picture-in-picture, 899,000 viewers.
Okay, so now but actually they drop oft times, more than 100,000 after the first quarter. So this is 101,000. So
within the trend line.
We're within the trendy McTrenderson line.
We dipped slightly below that trend line in Q3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The post-match of Wardlow versus Samoa Joe with Swerve Strickland, and the Young Bucks and Okada's backstage antics with Alex Marvez.
Oh, boy.
An ad break.
That was cable access, by the way.
And the start of the Elite with Okada now versus Pac, Penta El Zero Miedo, and Eddie Kingston.
The odd triple.
815,000 viewers.
Out. So the multi-million-dollar man over here, Okada, is not only on the screen talking in some fashion, communicating through his mouthful orifice, and starting to wrestle, and they lost 84,000 people.
Well, the real story may be the next quarter, because that was just the start of the match. Q4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The Elite versus Death Triangle and Eddie Kingston continued with picture-in-picture ads. The post-match, an ad break, and the Christian Cage Adam Copeland video. 737,000 viewers.
Oh, Jesus!
The trend line has been destroyed now.
The trend line, there was a sinkhole under the trend line, ladies and gentlemen. That is, let me try to do this math, 63, 70, 78,000 more people from the time that Okada and his new delinquent friends that he met at fucking Cucamonga Hills 90210, from the time that they came on the screen, they've gone from 899,000 people to 737,000 people. He's not a game changer. He's a channel changer.
They put him with the channel changers, so then he never even got a chance to show you if he could be a game changer or not. They put him right with them, and he got dragged right down with them. We go now to Q4 or Q5, the big 9 o'clock hour.
The big one.
9 to 9:15 p.m. Will Ospreay's live promo.
I feel like we're Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon. Oh, you are correct, sir.
Where was I? Will Ospreay's live promo.
Well, there he was.
Deonna Purrazzo's backstage promo. And the start of Jay White versus Darby Allin. 798,000 viewers.
So wait a minute. Potentially, Ostrich, maybe he's worth the flight from here to Heathrow and back every goddamn week because of all of the
BOAC, bub.
Yes, stuff like that he says. Of all of the new game changers, he's the only one that actually changed the fucking numbers in a positive direction so far. So they got 61,000 back as soon as they got rid of the Buckaroos and the rest of the Lollipop Guild.
That segment was also the high point in closed captioning. We don't have that stat, unfortunately. But we go now, Jim, to Q6.
Need to start measuring that. I swear to God. It could be a contest between him and Dusty. Try to close caption to see how close you can get either one of these guys.
Quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. The continuation of Jay White versus Darby Allin with picture-in-picture ads. The post-match, including the amazing angle with the guns, the Bang Bang Scissor Gang, the Acclaimed, a chair, and then an ad break.
Darby's Everest dreams may have been crashed into the Sherpas in the valley.
799,000 viewers.
So they held every single one of them and picked up 1,000 people. I bet, you know what, 200 of them were probably from the guys' hometowns, and then you spread the other 800 across the United States, and that's entirely doable.
We now go to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Gates of Agony versus the Fences of Fear. No, versus Chris Jericho and Hook. Chris Jericho was teaming up with Kenny Omega. Kenny got hurt. Then they put it with Sammy. Sammy got suspended. Now he's with Hook, ladies and gentlemen, with picture-in-picture ads.
Hook, if you're walking down the street up there in New York City, keep an eye up above your head in case there's a safe hanging over you.
Also, the Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Kingdom backstage angle.
No, that you can't call that an angle. It ended with a hug.
WrestleNomics called it an angle. It certainly wasn't an angle.
I'll have a strong word with them here soon.
732,000 viewers.
Bam! There we went right back down the porcelain throne, 5,000 farther than the Buckaroos had left us on last flush. So they've lost all their gains back and another 5,000 on top of that.
And by the way, for everyone who always says, it doesn't matter the overall number, it's only about what the advertisers care about, the key demo, the advertising demo. The 2 points that have fucking disappeared into the dirt were the Young Bucks match, which was quarter 4, went down to 316. It was 348 here for the Jerihook match, but we now go to the main event. And I remind you, Jim, we have no overrun number, so maybe this really picked up big in the overrun. Those 6 minutes could have been powerful.
It could have been gripping. Something like a War of the Worlds type of fucking spontaneous mania.
A Willow Nightingale video, Riho and Mercedes Moné's backstage meeting, an ad break, Jericho and Hook's backstage, says here angle, now I doubt what he refers to as an angle, followed by the main event, Riho versus Nightingale, the start of it, with picture-in-picture ads. 627,000 viewers and 285,000 in the key demo.
Hee-haw! Wow!
No more about Riho being a draw, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to hear that nonsense, which was always nonsense, ever again. Never, ever, never again.
And I don't want to bring up any, you don't even have to research this, but I heard it on the internet recently that apparently Japan, whatever's happening over there in that society with matters like this, they just recently maybe closed a loophole and raised the age of consent to 16 from 13. I don't know how long ago this was. It was What I was reading, it seemed to be a recent development, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was a few years ago or whenever. But yeah, I don't know what's happening over there with these things. But I wish that they would not enable this poor girl to either paralyze herself or torture the viewers or poison the wrestling business on national TV anymore after this scoring.
Well, again, I don't know what any of that has to do with the age of consent in Japan.
Well, just what in the world is that? Whether it's Tony or Kenny or Billy or Susie or Bobby or Tommy or whoever the fuck it is, what is their fixation with having this now adult woman, chronologically the size of a small child and dressed as a small school-going girl in the
she's 26. This. She's 26.
Okay, she looks fucking 9. I mean, seriously, what the fuck? And they're trying to make people believe She's a wrestler because everybody that works with her lets her do the moves to them.
She was like Brock Lesnar in that match. She's awesome. Did you see it? She was suplexing Willow all over the place. Eminent strength, just unbelievable
Eminent strength? Is that like eminent domain?
That's right. She's incredibly powerful.
Well,
to the core.
Somebody needs to report somebody somewhere to something about this whole thing. I can't.
Well, again,
I don't get it.
I don't get the direction you're going.
What is she? But let's put her in. Let's get her to do some high steel work. Outfitter like those construction workers in New York City you see up there on them skyscrapers all the time with the tool belts and the outfits and the big heavy helmets, and she can go up there and smoke cigars with them and hammer fucking steel in.
No, she can't. Unless she has an in with the union, no, she can't.
Well, exactly. Exactly. And I'm not going to fucking challenge Olga Corbett for her dominance on the balance beam either. Can we have some goddamn perspective on what people are being allowed to do for a living?
Well, beyond just it being Riho and your issues with Riho and the people that brought her to the country, apparently, beyond that.
And the boat.
The bigger issue.
Somebody needs to dry dock that boat that brought her over here, too.
I believe there was a plane involved, maybe two, depending on if she had to switch planes anywhere.
Well, ground the son of a bitch till it's inspected.
What does this say about... is this in any way a broader indictment of AEW's women's division? The way women are used in wrestling or overused? The insistence on putting them in positions like the main event of this show when there really isn't a clamoring for it or demand. Like it's again, Mercedes Moné's one of the biggest stars you would think of modern times in women's wrestling. You know, unless there's a big audience that had no idea she was there, and there probably is to an extent.
I'm sure there is, yes, because there's a bigger audience for the program she used to be on. That's who they should have been trying to hit with constantly advertising it on television and having her do media that will be picked up. But go ahead.
And I don't know if you could recapture that. The idea that you're going to get that kind of attention once she's there versus the idea she's announcing her debut somewhere new. There's unlimited promotional possibilities for that if you have like a month or two to build into it. But who knows? Tony may have things figured out.
Well, you were starting to frame that in the form of a question, and you
what does this say?
The goddamn. No, here's the question you were asking. What does this say about the women's division?
That's right. You have Riho and Willow in the main event here. Willow's been used. You know, the thing with her and Statlander and Stokely. I'm aware of it because it's been on TV a bunch lately. Riho just popped back up again. Every now and then she pops back up, and the numbers pop back down. I mean, it's crazy. This keeps happening, but. The Tony Storm stuff.
Pop goes the Riho.
Tony Storm won Best Gimmick in the Observer Awards. The segments aren't really lighting anything on fire. The match with Deonna Purrazzo.
Well, now we know what the Wrestling Observer Awards voting audience is like to begin with.
But I'm saying, is this a bigger indictment of the AEW women's division and the way women are currently being used in wrestling overall?
This specifically is not. This is an indictment of we don't want to see fucking Riho versus Willow. And that's not even knocking Willow. Willow ain't there yet, but Willow has potential. Maybe nobody has potential to rise in this company, but she has potential as a performer somewhere. And she was doing all the heavy lifting in this match. But they haven't gotten her to the point where they don't get her to a point or any her to a point. They bring in Paige, who was big before she got there. They bring in Mercedes, who was big before she got there. And I'm sure there's others, but you get the point. And they get smaller. They get smaller as they stay there, as you mentioned, and become part of the roster. But in this case, people just as I said, they couldn't guarantee a run in, so people thought Mercedes was done, and they hear a main event of Riho versus Willow and go, well, fuck, it's a goddamn school night, whatever, right? It's just meaningless because, as you said, Riho only pops up every once in a while, and it's preposterous, and that rib has run its course even with much of this audience. And It's disturbing visually, and it's just distasteful. So in this case, now, if they had, instead of a high school commencement speech or a prepared awards ceremony acceptance speech, if Mercedes at the top of that thing, after she finished thanking everybody and talking about how she, she's just happy to be there, whatever the fuck. If she had turned to a little more sternly to Willow, instead of just mentioning that they have unfinished business, if she had said, and Willow, I see you're going to be facing Rio tonight in the main event. And I just want to let you know the last time we were together at the same place, she beat her, dropped her on her head, talk about whatever the finish was. You dropped me on my head or kicked me on my head or whatever the fuck you did. And I'm going to be sitting right here at ringside because I want to see if you can do that to Riho. I think she's a lovely young lady, and I just want to make sure it's fair and square. Some ominous, dramatic foreshadowing, but you got none of that because she was too busy taking her clothes off and doing the stripper dance. But
between the Sting retirement and this debut, is this the new thing, having wrestlers come to support you when you're coming and going?
Apparently. I mean, I guess I don't know. We never actually had any of our friends when we would switch territories come for our first night in Dallas or whatever. They were too busy working.
Jim, we have some breaking news. The Overrun rating is now in.
Oh, well, hellfire and damnation, as Mama Cornette would say. What was that number?
Now, again, quarter 8 was 627. The Overrun, 6 minutes, 10 to 10:06 p.m., Rio versus Willow Nightingale, and the post-match including Julia Hart, Sky Blue, and Mercedes Moné.
Sounds like a 50s women's prison movie.
733,000 viewers.
Oh, okay, come on now. Come on now.
They really popped the audience to the other low of the episode.
But what was the program after? Because normally the Overrun is not 105,000 people, and Mercedes didn't show up until 3 minutes before they were off the air or whatever. So the point is, what was the program afterwards that people thought they were tuning in for? That's what I'd like.
The new Leave It to Beaver.
Well, in that case, they were very hard on the Beaver the other night, and on Tony Khan too. So, doing as we normally do, and by the way, 627,000 at the end of regulation, starting with 1 million, that is one of the bigger percentages, because that would mean they would, since that's millions a round number, they lost 37.3% of the audience from start to regulation finish. Is that what you would get? I got an even number for once. I think I know how to do it.
I'm going to trust your math in this instance and not do my own.
Well, but you got to do some math.
I do math all the time, here. all day, every day. I'm doing math.
all day.
This is my break from math.
I do the greatest math. It's huge. It's big.
Do amazing math.
Amazing math.
I math like no one else.
The maths don't know what hit them. So what I'd like you to do.
Here's a weird headline you never see on the news right now. Pierce Brosnan pleads guilty to walking in Yellowstone thermal area.
What?
I don't know anything else about this story, nor do I care, but there's a headline you don't see.
Was he cold? Was he trying to warm up? Is that a heating thing they've got? If you get frostbite out there, they have a thermal thing that warms you up?
I deeply regret.
What's happening here?
He's apologizing. I guess it was some kind of environmental statement that led to his arrest.
Well, I hate to. Was he pissing on something? He pissed on the goddamn hot spring and put it out.
He pissed on the role of James Bond. No. I don't know what he was pissing on, but again, back to the ratings, or did we finish the ratings?
Here's what we need to do. We need to do what we usually do and take out the first quarter that they inherit from the Big Bang and take out the overrun that they sap off of the next program and do quarters 2 through 8 and figure out what their true audience average is. That nobody else bothers to do this.
Well, I'm going to do this. Why don't you talk to the listeners for a moment while I add this up?
Well, I'd just like to say that once again, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you joining us here while we do this broadcast. We come to you weekly here at the Corny's Drive-Thru, and we are broadcasting live, as you hear in the background, from our newsroom, where many times we are on top of breaking news. And as everyone knows, and now, of course, we've just got a new correspondent we fired the last one that couldn't do simple math. But we just want you to remember that when news breaks, we take it back for a refund. And now I believe we were coming up to a full accounting of quarters 2 through 8 on the previous Dynamite episode this past Wednesday night.
772,000 viewers.
772,000. That's what we're saying is the real average number of people that watched that program this week, which is, again, it's like a slinky. It's easy for this program to go down the stairs, but it's a lot harder for this program to go up the stairs. Slinky Tony.
All right, well, that's one of the least offensive nicknames he's been called since he became a wrestling promoter. But those are the AEW Dynamite ratings, and Jim, I guess if you were a wrestler there and unhappy about things, and you realize that AEW just hands out paydays like nothing, you may want to sue.
Well, of course I would. And as a matter of fact, with AEW, I wouldn't even have to call an attorney because they just throw money out the window as they drive by. But for the folks out there who may have been wronged in some fashion by legitimate corporations, whether they be greedy or whether they be beholden to the almighty dollar at the expense and or the risk of other people, civilians, the simple people's health and safety and happiness and ability to live a fruitful life and have conjugal visits with their spouses, you gots to call Stephen P. New.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. He'll sue the rest.
See right there, Brian, as soon as you mention the man's name, suddenly a band comes in and a singer and a chorus and all that stuff. It's like when you mention his name, suddenly the clouds part and the sun comes down and you hear, hallelujah, hallelujah. And you're going to be saying hallelujah when you get your settlement or your various forms of payoff to go away. Make this attorney go away, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they say, oftentimes accompanied by fistfuls of cash with non-sequential serial numbers thrown in your general direction to make this man go away because he will defend the common man. Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com. 877-50-STEVE is the musical mellifluous number that you can call. And we're going to be having an update very shortly, Brian, on one of these mud shows that he's going to be turning upside down and shaking for change on many people's behalf, including us.
That's right, a lot of mud out there, and of course, I can't even speak. And you can even do nothing and say nothing and just ruin a show by blathering like an idiot with Stephen P. New.
Well, it's your show.
It's my show. Stephen P. New, 877-50-STEVE. You can get in touch with 50-STEVE, newlawoffice.com.